duty where you going? Fire fire stars. 3 o'clock. Got duty in the town. We just crashed the bird. They've got 23.
Hi friends, welcome back. We're on the 4th of the video series in the 2S19. We're going to be looking at camo markings. 4 things we're going to cover. We're going to cover that operational stripe. Going to cover out the wheels themselves, the decals, the markings, all this intricate stuff. Short video, but this took a lot of time to make, and we're going to get quite a lot of tips out of this video. So let's just check this out. Let's go and start off with looking at the intricate markings. So here's a reference photograph of the 2 vehicles. We need to use 2 vehicles because we've only got one view of one side of each vehicle. Let's just have a look at what we're dealing with here. Now obviously the vehicle was we airbrushed it freehand, but these are very tight, intricate patterns, and they're a bit unusual, and that's really why I wanted to choose this vehicle as my subject. So in one vehicle we've got these 4 shapes. That's vehicle 515, and we can actually see where they're placed, 2 on the fender and 2 on the back of the turret. Now for the other side of the vehicle we don't know, so we're going to use this reference photograph and look at the shapes here. One looks like a bird. That could be a person maybe. Is that a snake? Who knows? Anyways, they look cool, and we're going to use those shapes for other areas of the star that we can't see. So we're going to combine both images. So a simple case of opening this up in the Photoshop program. I'm using Adobe Photoshop. You can use whatever. I'm sure there's freeware that will do the same thing. And what we're doing, we're zooming right in, and in this case using a lasso tool to trace around the outside of the pattern and then cut it out from the image. And then what we do is we open up a brand new file in A4 format and simply paste in the shape, which is what we do. There you can see it, and make sure you check your scaling. And also we actually referenced each one's from where they came from. So on 515, that is the right fender rear pattern, so we can put that in the appropriate place. Now it's just a case of repeating this technique of cutting out the shapes, which is pretty easy actually. It doesn't take that long to do. Paste them into the new document, label them up, and repeat. Here's a snaky pattern. Aren't these cool? Who do you think did this? They must have had a Pablo Picasso in their unit. Is that what happened here? Anyways, it's a pretty unique scheme, and I really wanted to capture this as accurately as possible. I'm scaling that up because in that photograph it's smaller, so I needed to sort of make it about double. There are other ways of doing this, of course. If you're good at freehand painting, by all means go ahead. Now I printed this out using a normal inkjet printer onto paper. What I did, I just checked the scaling to see if it was right, which it was. And it's also painted out on the grey. The grey is a masking frisket. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now what I'm using here is something called a gyro cutter, and I really can't remember where on earth I got this from, but it's a sort of graphic tool. It's a cutting head on a pivot point, which allows you to more easily cut around circular shapes in a free manner. So I gave that a go. Here I'm working on the paper, simming close there. It is a really tight, intricate pattern, and the reason here was to get some practice in. Now on paper you can see what happens. It rips, it tears, you get like a fuzzy edge. The material is not suitable for what we will be doing, so the masking frisket is really what you need for this technique. So again, I'm going in there again with the gyro cutter. After a few practice attempts, I sort of knew roughly what I was doing, what to be careful of, and I started on the easier shapes basically. It's just a simple case of tracing around the pattern, and then you weed out the positive part of the mask, and there's your mask. or one of them ready. Just need to repeat this. In some cases we use an X-Acto knife. Make sure you put a fresh blade into that knife if you're going to do this. The tip will come off immediately, it always does. But again, you can see this one's even a little bit tighter. So just taking your time, working slowly. It took a while to do this, but basically there's not really that many shapes to deal with. But they are small and they are intricate. There we go, I'm weeding out the positive part of the mask. Some of that residue is actually ink from the printer, and after a while I've got all my masks ready. They're labelled up so I know where they go, and then just place them onto the model. The advantage of this masking frisket is that it sticks on quite cleanly onto flat surfaces of the model, so I needed to choose flat surfaces. So I used a bit of interpretation of where I wanted to put these in most cases. We used NATO Black XF69 from Tamiya, which is a very, very dark grey. Didn't go solid black for these colours. And this is the easy part. Just using low pressure and just fill in the blanks. That's all there is to it. I mean, with a lot of these things, it's the prep work that's more important. So just work lightly. Make sure you got your airbrush about 90 degrees to the mask. You do not want to get any underspray going underneath the mask. You don't want any bleed. You want to use low pressure. Just the usual techniques here. Especially we don't want any soft edge on this, so we wanted that nice tight shape. There you can see one of the, I think that's the bird there going on the fender on the opposite side, so we didn't know what that looked like, so we used some interpretation. After a while they're all filled in. Time for the reveal here. Take off the mask, the most satisfying part of it, and I was immediately really pleased with how they looked. They definitely conveyed the look of those patterns precisely.
Nice.
Yeah, a very good result in terms of the patterns. But you can see it.
Oh, now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you fucked
Yeah,
up.
it's pretty damn obvious. I got
You fucked up now.
overspray of the black
Now you
in
fucked
quite
up.
a few areas there, and that's user error. I mean, there's nothing else to it. It happens. We'll come back to that. We'll rectify it later on, but it does happen. We're all human, and I'm going to try and show you some of these mistakes from time to time because that's part of the modeling process. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, there's another feature on this vehicle. It's what I call the big ass white stripe, and I measured out the stripe from the photograph. It worked out was half the width of the access door on the right hand side of the turret, and that happened to correspond with this 10mm Tamiya masking tape. So I'm laying in the position of the stripe. This isn't masking, I'm just basically showing where the position of the stripe will be, making sure it's square, making sure it's in the right position, and you just leave that in place just for now. And we're going to be using another masking material. You see me struggling to get this stuff out. Panzer putty, but cheaper. Yeah, I think it's called Science Putty, and get it on eBay. It's the same stuff. It's non-greasy. It's a child's toy of some sort, but it's a putty that will go into a liquid state after a while. Anyways, hard to explain. But I made ribbons of this. I mean, geez, this is not a complex shape, but the idea of using this masking putty is I'm not going to get a perfect hard edge, and I'm not going to get a ragged edge, so I'm going to get something that looks as if it may be roughly hand painted. So that was the idea here. Now again, could I hand paint the stripe? Yeah, I could, but I tell you what, to fight against those camel colors with a white paint, it'll take a long time. So using the airbrush will make it easier for ourselves. Don't forget to mask out the cupola here, or that hatch. And having learnt my lesson, I am using some tin foil here, aluminium foil, whatever you call it, just to mask up all the rest of the vehicle, because white, of course, will be immediately apparent as an overspray, as was the black, as you saw. Anyways, yeah, okay, Mr. Color white paint 316 in this case, and just mist on the white. The white needs to be built up in a few layers. It takes a little while. Do not go in heavy. You do not want runs. You don't want that stuff to go underneath the mask. Just build up lightly. In some areas I sort of left it a little bit translucent, so I didn't want it 100% opaque. It gives it that more crudely applied look. And I'll just point out, this is a base step for this white stripe. Okay, remove the masking material, and there you go. I was happy with this. It was the right size. It looked about right. It looked a bit crude, and it was even a bit glossy, as I did notice that it probably was house paint that they used on the actual vehicles. Check to fit the hatch, lose it. Okay, when I remove the masking putty, you can see it's taken off some of the paint, especially from the photo etch. One of those things, we'll come back to that later on. Now on the wheels here, this is a technique that you can use on all wheels, be it an aircraft, be it a tank, be it a car, whatever you're doing anyway. So I'm mounting all the road wheels on kebab sticks or shish kebab sticks or whatever you call them, with a bit of Patafix there. The MG as well, that was a small hole drilled in the bottom of it, and super glue on a toothpick using NATO black again. And the first step is to shade them all with this dark grey. It represents a pretty good sort of rubber, like a worn rubber colour. And this is just a base coat on the MG. Make sure you get into that deep central portion of the road wheel. You do not want grey plastic to be apparent. And here again, another masking technique. We're going to use a circular template. These used to be available everywhere. Now I'm sure you can order them everywhere, but you used to be able to get them from graphic shops, and it's just a case of placing or finding the correct hole, and there I found it for the road wheel. So the road wheel has a rim on it that protrudes outside of the rubber, and it basically butts against the circular template. Make sure you mask off the remaining holes on the template, or you're going to get overspray everywhere. And then check the fit again in case the hole changed. Anyways, okay, and then again, all we're doing is filling in the blanks. So in with the airbrush, we're applying the field grey, that green colour, once again, and also at the same time we finished off all the other little items. So the drive sprockets, the idler, the inside of the hatches, the inside of the cupola, just the bits and pieces that we hadn't painted during the initial stages. And there you go, there's the result on the road wheels. Really tight, really trick. I hope you like it. Now to deal with the overspray, I tried this correction technique. Get some 3M superfine sanding foam, and in some cases you can just simply remove the overspray just by gently polishing off the surface. In this case, however, I think you can see it. Have a look at the right. There's a big piece of grey plastic there. Yeah, I went straight through. Remember, we didn't use any primer, and this happened. So, well, it was worth a try. Let's put it that way, guys. So that didn't work. What do we do? Well, we went back with the airbrush and we tightened it in. We actually sprayed both colors. We went in very tight, low pressure, corrected everything, and it's all good. Now let's apply some varnish. We used a mixture of Mr. Color's flat with a drop of gloss in it. I need a flat finish on the bulk of the model, or a somewhere between flat and semi-gloss. Let's just put it that way. That will be explained in the next video, but I need to protect my paint, and also I need a certain finish. We use Mr. Color, which is a sort of satin finish. We've got Tamiya, which is a flat finish, and also we need to unify that surface and protect it. Point to note as well, we applied gloss on the side of the turret in preparation for the decals, which is obviously what we're doing next. Went through my old decal sheets and found the most appropriate markings. Found some that looked in the right style and the right size, most importantly. I didn't have 515, but I got 516, which is close enough. I mean, we're doing a representation. We've got the battery or squadron square with a circle in it. They had a square, but we use a square and a circle. Looked cooler. Put on the decals. This is pretty damn easy. It should be. So wet the surface, stick on the decal, blah, blah, blah. We know what we're doing here. Again, make sure you have got this gloss surface. Don't listen to these other chumps on the internet saying you don't need gloss. Put gloss down. There we go. They're in position. Now, use your mark fit, your solver set, whatever you do. You want them to suck down, bed down as firmly as possible onto that surface, and that is the reason we have gloss behind it, or a semi-gloss at least, at the bare minimum. There you go, they're on, and let's see what the problem is here. There's a very, very visible film there from the decal. It looks terrible. It isn't right. We can see on the reference photos that they were not glossy. They did not have film on them. They weren't big stickers. So let's eliminate this. And we're going to use, here we're going to use the Lifestyle and Entertainment Department made in Japan. Well, no, we're going to use Mr. Decal Dissolve. We're using Mr. Color Thinner. We can use the leveling thinner. We can use the normal Mr. Color Thinner. This, I'm going to immediately tell you guys, high risk technique. More appropriate to armor. You can use it on aircraft by all means. Here's your big gun. Use Tamiya extra thin cement. The same thing will do it, but you can have a disaster, Mr. NDT is. The secret here is application. So you get your Q-tip or your cotton swab, get some thinner on it, make sure it is not soaking. You do not want this stuff anywhere but the decal. And as you can see, I'm rolling the Q-tip across the surface of the decal. This is the technique. Just roll it gently, and what you do, you tend to do maybe 2 applications at a time. Don't keep on the decal continually scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. Believe me, you ruin everything. So you do this over time. Start rolling it, let it dry, come back, roll it, and over time the decal film will dissolve, believe me. On top of that, the decal will dissolve. On top of that, the varnish will dissolve, and so will your paint. This is why it's a high risk technique. I'm using my smartphone there. I'm just going in there close, seeing how much film's left, going back again, repeat this. It doesn't take that long, but the secret is to take your time here. You do not want to ruin your paint work. So it is high risk, but it does work. This is the only way I know how to do this. And look at this photograph here. Now I've gone for like faded markings. The decal film has totally disappeared, as you can see in these photographs. It looks amazing. And that basically concludes where we are on all the paint steps. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got a little bit out of this, guys. Subscribe, give comments, and I'll answer your questions, and see you on the next one.